While I've got
Yeah.
you, Frank, I have to ask about Oleksandr Usyk. I mean, did you see the stoppage last night?
Yes. Yes. I thought it was premature.
Hmm.
I thought it was a bit hasty by the referee. I can understand it in a way. Um, but here's the thing we've got to consider. Little things matter in boxing. Now, if you look at that stoppage, what happened just before that? The gum shield went out, right? Now, did he mean to split the gum shield out to buy himself some more time? Because you've got to find the gum shield, you've got to take it to the corner, you've got to rinse it out, got to put it back in, or was that really what happened? So there's that little part of it, you know. I think had the round continued, he would have stopped him anyway. I think that's the case. I think that Verhoeven was under a great deal of pressure. However, having said that, I thought when the referee stepped in, it was too hasty. The other thing is the bell. There's nothing worse if you don't hear the bell. So, just imagine this. Had the bell gone and Verhoeven had caught Usyk with a terrific punch. Maybe Usyk would have relaxed it. He heard the bell, and and Usyk might have gone down. Who knows? We'll never know. We've got to get the bells much, much louder, much louder. If you're in, and we've been there, I've been in big, big arenas where it's very difficult to hear the bell. I don't know about you, but I didn't hear the bell last night when I watched it on TV. So I got to give the referee a little bit of leeway on that one. Usyk, goodness knows, I mean, we heard at the end that Usyk's family, his daughter, I think, was had this under fire, as it were, um, because of the Russian Ukraine war. So is that going on in his mind? He knew about that before he went in. Is that, can you imagine the worry
Yeah, exactly.
going on? So that kind of thing sucks the energy from you. You might not think it. You might think I'm going to be focused on the contest, but no, there are little things, and certainly family things, little things like that that do affect you. So I think we've got to think about that. Usyk wasn't himself. However, I think there are two things. When you're boxing a novice, and this guy is a novice, he's only had one previous boxing fight, but he did well. And he had the stamina and he had the guts. And Peter Fury and his team did so well in getting him ready for this. But there are two things. One thing, the guy didn't use his height and reach properly. Verhoeven should have used his advantage of height and reach. He should have been pumping out long left jabs to keep Usyk, the much shorter guy who was going to do damage closer in. He should have kept him at arm's length. He had a good cross, Verhoeven, and he should have used that jab, and not just the kind of tippy-tappy jabs that we saw from him. He should have put it out in a meaningful way and used his cross. He didn't do that. And I think if you look at the contest, what you'll see also is that he actually dropped his height to the level of Usyk. Now, why would you do that? You're giving away the advantage that you have. The two advantages, height and reach, let's use them. So, if I'm critical, and it's hard to be critical because he did such a good job, he should have, from a technical point of view, he should have kept his height, stood upright, and kept Usyk at bay. Allowing Usyk to close in on him wasn't a good idea. And if you look at Verhoeven, apart from that aspect of the fight, what he did was he wanted to get close to Usyk. Why would you do that when you've got the height and reach advantage?
Yeah, I have to ask, obviously, a lot of your content that I watch is on technical skills and just the fundamentals of boxing. technically, what did Rico Verhoeven do that gave Usyk troubles? I mean, to me, I think I had Rico up 3 rounds. I've had a lot of people say to me that Rico did better than Tyson Fury, than Daniel Dubois, than Anthony Joshua. What did Rico
Yeah.
Verhoeven do that caused Oleksandr Usyk problems?
Well, he did a few things right. The one thing he did do that gave Usyk problems was that despite his height and reach advantage, he was landing body blows
Yeah.
to Usyk. And I think Usyk must have been surprised by that, thinking, hang on a second, how did that happen? And so from that point of view, he was doing everything right. What he was doing wrong was that he was staying there. So big guys are not particularly mobile. They can land their punches, 1, 2 punches, unlike Usyk, who is very mobile
Mm.
as a big guy. And when Usyk throws punches, he throws 3, 4, 5 punch combinations. Verhoeven couldn't manage that. He wasn't kind of mobile enough to carry out that kind of maneuver. But the body punches would have surprised Usyk, and the force of his backhand when it was reaching Usyk's chin. Now, if Verhoeven had continued along those lines, things might have been different. But when he became tired, he got closer to Usyk, and that suited Usyk because Usyk is a great infighter, certainly for a big man. So I think the body punches would have surprised Usyk, and I think the force, and I think the fact that Verhoeven had the confidence to throw those punches, and the backhand punches that he landed on Usyk's chin, I think that would have been a surprise for Usyk.
I'm happy to admit that during my lifetime, Oleksandr Usyk is the best heavyweight that has been around. For you, obviously, everyone likes to compare different generations and things like that. Just do you think Oleksandr Usyk is up there as the best heavyweights of all time? And if so, whereabouts would you put him?
Well, I probably would put him up round about number 8.
Mm.
Um, I'd have to think about this one, but
Yeah.
nobody could take away from the fact that if you look at a guy like Muhammad Ali,
Mm.
Ali boxed like a middleweight,
Mm.
incredibly fast hands, footwork off the scale for such a huge man, you know, and he had the technical wherewithal. So he would box when he box with his jab and his long fight, if you like, when it suited him. And then as fights wore on and he could see that he'd overcome his opponent, that's when he would step in and stop them or knock them out. And even against guys like Foreman and the big guys like and he was past his best when Ron Lyle and Ken Norton, he was boxing like a middleweight. So you can never overlook that with Ali. He didn't box like the heavyweights of today. Now take Usyk out of that equation because if you look at guys like Fury and even Verhoeven, if you're talking about him, they're big guys and they can land 2 punches and then they want to hold because it's very difficult for them to throw multi-punch combinations. um, Itauma is different, and I'd like to see him kind of step up in class. And Caballel, I think I'm a fan of his as well. But on the Usyk thing and what happened the other night in the WBC, incredulous in putting up the title,
Mm.
allowing this to be a world title fight. If you're somebody like Itauma, Caballel, Hergovich, and 1 or 2 others, and you're waiting in the wings for a shot at the World Championship, and you're seeing a guy parachuted in from another combat sport to get a World Championship fight in his second fight, you'll be thinking to yourself, why am I being overlooked? It's so unfair. And so that calls into question the whole ethos of the WBC and the guy who runs it, Mauricio Suleiman. So you got to question all this. And this money's at the root of everything.
Yeah, Frank, I've just got two more before I let you go. You mentioned quite a few names there. And like I say, all these people, Tyson Fury, Ajit Cabello, Moses Itauma, they'll all be looking at Usyk and wanting a shot. I'm going to focus on Moses Itauma. I mean, when you watched that fight last night, Moses we've seen is Jermaine Franklin and Dillian White. They are the main two names. How much of a chance do you give this Moses Itauma against that Oleksandr Usyk?
Well, against that Oleksandr Usyk, and remember, we don't know what was going on in the background in terms of his family issues and the war and the danger that his daughter was in. We don't know, what was going on in his mind. But if we're taking everything as we see it, I think he would have a good chance against Usyk, and certainly because he's a southpaw as well. And Usyk's not used to fighting southpaws. I mean, generally speaking, southpaws box orthodox fighters. But when you've got a guy that's, two southpaws together, actually, the chances are it might be an incredibly boring fight. I think not, but usually when you get two southpaws facing each other, it's kind of a bore fest much of the time, because they cancel each other out. But Usyk, we now know that Usyk has two more fights left. He said that before this fight of the weekend, he said he was going to have three fights.
Mm-hmm.
So, afterwards we saw Turki Al Sheikh virtually press ganging him into fighting Caballero next, and then a return match with Verhoeven in the Netherlands. So that takes up those two fights. I think if I were Usyk now, I would be thinking, unless he's got contracts for these fights, I don't know. I would be thinking to myself, is there any point in continuing? So listen, if Usyk came out tomorrow or the day after and said, you know what, I've decided to retire, I would not be surprised. And in fact, I would praise him if he did that, because I think that he's had a remarkable career. He's a wonderful guy. He's a great role model for young fighters and young people generally. He's done so much for his country. What else is there for him to achieve?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I was saying that in the last interview. It's like he got this win and he was giving credit to Rico Verhoeven and he's speaking about his family, and then straight away they're talking about Ajit Cabello, a rematch.
Yeah,
It does just feel they're going to
yeah,
keep on trying to give Usyk opponents until eventually he loses, which obviously would
yeah.
leave a bit of a sour taste.